Hello, hello. Today is the 8th of March, another Friday, and we're going to talk about a lot of things in Gluster. A few of us were out last week, so we couldn't put one of these episodes out, but that doesn't mean that the Gluster community was not working on things. In fact, there's been a lot of testing going on for Gluster 6. This is in context of the fact that we have been seeing on the mailing list a bunch of issues been reported, and today Amar is going to walk us through a bit of the specific test scenarios and like why we are paying more attention than ever before to this, and how all this makes sense for communities that and users that are depending on Gluster. Amar, welcome back. Uh, I know this is a Friday, late in the evening for you, but go ahead, walk us through as to what's happening.
Yeah, thank you, Sankarshan. Last 2 weeks, as you said, we focused more on Cluster 6 upgrade scenarios and testing, mainly because the estimated release date was March 4th. And we did identify a couple of blockers during upgrade, which was, in general, upgrade scenarios were one of the concerns of our users. Everybody was not so confident of upgrade, so we focused on upgrade this time, and we did find actually a couple of blockers. We called them blockers because with these upgrades, what happened was the peers, Gluster peers, could get into a rejected state, so which is a problem. This happened because in one of the patches we changed the algorithm to calculate the checksum, and it had to check for the particular version. It did it for everything, so that caused all of this mess. We identified the patch quickly. The fix is submitted. We are trying to make a release with the fix. A patch also was gotten into 5x series, so that is also getting fixed. So that is one such thing. And second is there were a couple of issues identified because we removed many translators and code base from Gluster FS for Gluster 6, and that also was one of the small issues. We fixed that. On a similar lines, I should thank Overt community who actually tried to upgrade their base to the Gluster 5x series from Gluster 312 series, and they identified actually a couple of issues. One of them was the after replicate self field, the extended attributes were getting missed. So this happens only in the hyperconverged setup, and Overt community, because they mostly use Gluster in a hyperconverged setup, identified this issue and reported. That issue also is now identified and tested and fixed. So we have to make a RC release with that. And there was one more issue where the connections were getting failed, and there was a self-fill daemon which was getting spawned multiple times. So these were the glimpse of the issues we found during the test day, thanks to all the users and developers who participated here. And with all that, we have taken a decision to delay the release by 2 weeks, which means that the new estimated release date will be 18th of March for Gluster 6. And the RC is expected on a Monday, like 11th, we next RC, because we have fixed most of the upgrade issues, which was blocking further tests. So after we make another RC release, we are calling for one more test day, and we want to make sure that all the features and bugs which we say are fixed are all validated.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So the test days have helped, right? That to be able to narrow down all the issues that were coming in and to be able to see if, and also to prioritize.
very much. I should say that they helped tremendously because it did bring like identify the blockers. It was actually most of our developers who are focused on validating these things, scenarios. It did help.
Right. And so if we are pushing back the Gluster 6 release all the way to 18th of March with an RC on the 11th, how does this all tie back into GCS, or is that decoupled from any release schedule changes for Gluster 6?
So we called out saying, hey, GCS being one of the, like we are wanting to call GCS 1.0, say at the beginning of the Feb, but we realized that if Gluster FS is not a stable release used in GCS, it is not a right thing, because as a community, we may not be able to support the issues, or it may be confusions, right? So we thought we should use Gluster 6.0 as a base for GCS. But thing to note here is GCS doesn't face the issue of upgrades, because it will be a new cluster which will be started with GCS 1.0, and everything is a all new thing. So new volumes, there won't be a scenario for particularly upgrades. So none of these issues would have mattered for a GCS, but we were not, or we are still not planning to go ahead with the GCS release without Gluster 6. We want to actually go together, maybe a week
Okay,
after, because
right.
yeah.
And what about the topic that came up a few weeks back about testing through the loopback? Is that
Yes,
planned in the release as well?
yes, actually, loopback is making it to the release, mainly because one of the issues we faced is currently with the latest some kernel updates in the LVM layer, we identified that there are some issues where we were failing to register the devices. So this is making our focus on loopback bricks even more important. So I think that is very critical. The patches have made it, and there are still some of the known issues which people are working. I think hopefully by Monday or Tuesday next week we should have all the fixes, and that should allow us to make the loopback itself as a brick default, instead of going through LVM, which is a normal
Mm-hmm.
scenario in cluster.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Amar, for sharing all of that. As much as the delay of the release may be unexpected for our users, but being able to test this through an RC candidate, shake out all the bugs is something that is absolutely necessary to do. So we'll look forward to updates on the mailing list about how the RC shapes up for the Monday. That's the 11th of March. For those who are listening out there, if you have questions or feedback, please hit up our mailing list. That's Gluster Devil, Gluster-Devil, and or Gluster.users. Links to the mailing list are available from our webpage. At some point fairly soon, we will start collating all the feedback that we have received from the user survey and consolidate it all into a post out there. And if you want to reach out to us and provide feedback on any other issues, or just bring to our attention something that's impacting your deployment, you can use our Twitter handle that's at Gluster as well. Uh, and with that, we'll wrap it up for this week and hope to see you next week, at which point we should ideally have good news about the RC and should be well on our path to having the GA for Gluster 6 out. Thanks again, Amar.
Thank you, Sankarshan.